I'm Stephen Foskett, organizer of Tech Field Day and publisher of Gestalt IT, and we're here at Cloud Field Day 15 in beautiful Silicon Valley. Now, I am surrounded by cloud architects. There are so many cloud architects here, and yet one of the funny things that came up while we were talking about this topic is, wait a second, what the heck even is a cloud architect? And the answer pretty much is, oh, well, that's me, from these folks, not me. And yet, is cloud architect the new sort of does everything in IT generalist topic? Who's a cloud architect here? Pumla, you want to tell me what the heck is a cloud architect?
Oh gosh, I do a little bit of everything. So I help lead and guide our multi-cloud program from an technical architecture perspective. But it's complicated. You know, some days I don't know what I do. I'm going to be honest. I'm like, oh my God, there's just so much, because it's a little bit of business and it's a little bit of technical. And you know, you've got to understand your use cases, and you've got to understand the technology behind it in order to help build solutions. And then you've got solutions architect that focus on a specific technology. So you sort of kind of, I don't say sit above them, but you help guide those solution architects that architect the individual platforms then.
Okay. So yeah. I'm actually now 2 organizations in of holding the cloud architect title. And it very much so feels like one of those roles that is split brain between what it is and what it should be. In my mind, what it should be is you are going to look at the infrastructure in some way, shape, or form of what the applications are going to go on to, and define processes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And how those things should look, so the developers have a consistent model to which they deploy to. What it tends to be is the person that goes and is doing those things as well. So you're skipping the step in the life cycle where someone defines the process, someone implements it, and then you have a feedback cycle that goes between the two of them. The problem also with that title, if I can just riff for one more second, is it's just so wide spectrum. I mean, I've frankly done very little in anger with hyperscaler cloud or with Kubernetes and things like that. So while I was a cloud architect, my life is primarily all vSphere as far as the eye can see. So others have different instances of that.
And I think organizations, they just tag you as a cloud architect almost, I don't know, arbitrarily, like if they can't come up with a title for you. Sometimes I think that, but it is a role, it's a leadership role that helps engineers engineer the solution as well. But you've got to have a business side, because you've got to work with the business to help find solutions for them, or you know, build solutions so they can do their job and help that operating model. Because for example, I'm helping define a new operating model as part of being a cloud architect based off the new technology we're bringing in. A little bit of everything. And other duties assigned.
So far, I haven't heard a lot of cloud, though.
But in the role, in respect to cloud, though.
That's actually interesting. I was going to say, because a cloud architect is a practice creator, and the fact that it's run on a public or private cloud actually separated from it, that you are moving the same way like an enterprise architect or a solutions architect. We get this weird thing. You can be a cloud architect, Jim talked about it, right? Using VMware technologies, even traditional non-vCloud technologies.
Yeah.
But the practice, it's interesting. It's more like, I'll say, what does a cloud architect not touch in the environment that another something architect would be building?
It's like you're defining strategy. You're helping define and build that strategy, and then working with the solutions architect to roll out the strategy. Like you're the guiding light for strategy and innovation. Gosh, I'm just pulling out all sorts of buzzwords now.
Exactly. Needs more ML and AI.
Super cloud. Soon I'll be a super cloud architect.
Are you going?
Absolutely not.
So I think what
what we get into when we get into the weeds, it's a difficult area to really figure out. I kind of agree that Cloud Architect has become kind of like answer this question A, B, C, or other, and then like, you know, if I'm putting in a ticket or having to do the paperwork to answer that question, I'm going to hit other multiple times because it's just easier just to not quantify it unless it's very obvious. And so, you know, to your point, Pumala, about like it's just this kind of bucket of we don't really know what you do, but you do cloudy things. So here you go. You're a cloud architect now. I think that's really an interesting point to what Eric said about touching multiple different areas and that are cloudy, not cloudy. You know, you if you're in the cloud, guess what? You've got to touch storage. You got to touch networking. You got to touch cloud native. You got to touch, which is, you know, dim darn Kubernetes. And you know, you've got to touch application to a certain degree. You're touching all of the life cycle of, you know, a actual body of an organization. And so there is that strategy component to it, because I've had this thought process of, is a DevOps engineer a cloud architect? And a DevOps engineer probably doesn't have that strategy component to it and probably doesn't have that extra layer above it, but he still touches all those individual pieces. He still has to understand the network, the storage, the application, the pipeline. And so it's good when we're talking about what a cloud architect is to kind of maybe start with, you know, maybe we should quantify what we're not while we go on that journey, so we can have a better understanding of what we actually don't do, or what we do as part of our job, but we couldn't fit under that label.
From a marketing perspective, this is very, very hard. And I think it's some of the reason why the big vendors jumped on just marketing to developers, because they know who the developers are and their personas are pretty straightforward, but operations is changing.
Mhm.
And so the operator personas are changing. So if you don't know what a persona is, any good company that has a product to sell will know who they're going to sell it to. And they'll write out a persona. It's like a resume of what that person likes and what they don't like and how much education they have and what they spend their days doing, that kind of thing. And so now all of a sudden, I think maybe the cloud architects are just so far at y'all are kind of like holding the line till organizations decide how they're really going to structure their operations team to support the new types of things that developers are wanting to grow, and to figure out if they're going to use Kubernetes. Like they're trying to figure all of this out, and they just don't really have things bucketed, because I talk to people in different types of organizations and they have different types of people, and they may or may not have a cloud architect. Big companies have architects in a team distributed out to different applications, but the top architects, the main super architects, are the ones that decide what's the menu that the rest of the architects will get to pick from to build the environment that an application is going to live on. So
You're absolutely correct.
so that's it's changing, and it's really hard for marketers and for vendors, I think, to figure out, well, who the heck do we talk to? It's not the admin anymore, you know. So.
We're almost like we're definitely thought leaders too within our organization, because we help build that strategy and define and drive that strategy. Like, for example, where I work, we have tons of architects, and there's a lot of cloud architects, in fact, but we're on specific domains. So you can have, you know, many, but we focus on particular areas of our specialty. And then even within the specialty of cloud, it's still very focused.
I completely agree with you. Also with your previous, especially about, well, you separated the cloud architects to solutions architects. And what if cloud solution architect, as I am? I mean, well, I'm working for a cloud service provider. We're not so big, so I think that I summarize all the stuff you tell. So yes, leading a team, I would like to put my hands on, so to put my hands dirty. I
I'm not,
cannot.
see, I'm not hands-on.
No, well, there's
Yeah,
in
but
the
the
good,
solutions guy is though.
yes,
Yeah,
a solution, but I also have to organize and to orchestrate that guy. So I cannot, I cannot put my hands on maybe coding or maybe installing, developing. I cannot anymore. I think that a cloud architect, let's say, should have a wide knowledge of the technologies, not deep for everyone, because it's impossible for one to have all this deep, but surrounding with people that are specific for every of this one. So when you create, when the architect creates an environment or for a customer or for ourselves. So again, being cloud service provider, we do both of them. I have to to ask the storage guy, to ask the network guy, just to put together what I design on the higher level, at the concept level, and maybe also logical design. But all after this, all the physical designs and so on are not my. I cannot do them.
Yeah.
So I think that there is also psychological part. As a leader, you have to be a psychologist first of all, not a boss. It's
Yeah,
not at all.
I agree with you, Raf, because yeah, cloud architect seems a big things thinking about, yeah, before the cloud, before the invention of the cloud, right? You have
Yeah, 2 roles,
Yeah,
not just
yeah.
one wage.
Well,
I don't know
But
why.
you're
Yeah,
cheating at
well,
it, right?
yeah, and probably today the right definition of a cloud architect depends on the organization where this person is put
Yep.
in the company. Because yeah, I was taking an example of yeah, the company where I work, and we have many cloud architects. One is focused on bring cloud stuff and put available for developers team or whatever. One is platform management stuff that is doing cloudy stuff again, and see cloud and Kubernetes as to target of the pipelines and the automations and so on and so on. So I want to say that the cloud architect is really wide.
Yes, it is. It's
Yeah,
it's very
broad.
wide. And then
Yeah.
some organizations mesh together architect and engineer. And others don't. It's completely
Yeah,
separated. Engineering is the actual functional, we press the buttons, I press go. And architects are,
Cool.
here's what I want you to press go.
Or
yeah,
it's
it's
the company,
coordinating.
the
Yeah, it's
master,
coordinating
true.
all the stuff with yeah, and it's true. This is yeah, kind of evolution, but there's a excess.
Yeah, I have a third role. So,
Yeah.
so engineer.
Depends on your
Pay is going
organization.
down by the
Yeah,
minute.
good.
Yeah.
It's like 1/3 are doing.
So let me ask you guys a question then. Is the cloud architect the one who's deciding on the strategy and products that are being used by the enterprise? So if you are selling, I don't know, Tanzu as a strategy, is the cloud architect going to make that decision? I mean, or are they maybe not ultimately making the decision, but contributing to that decision? And how about some of these other products? I saw your hand up, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, I think a cloud architect definitely does inform it. So there's two sides of that. Is there, my role is actually morphed now from a cloud architect to a product infrastructure architect. And in that definition of the role, it definitely is that we inform and begin the product lifecycle process. And so it makes sense there. It's a giant, it depends. Every organization is designed differently. Every organization uses the term cloud architect differently. It just depends.
Sorry, go ahead.
It is that merger of conceptually coming out with what needs to be done to solve a business problem, to reach a business outcome, and then mapping products. So you become a technical decision maker to use the sales speak.
Yeah,
Like the
that's-
person that they will not necessarily be the ones that write the
I
check,
like that
but they're the
term,
ones that will
yep.
say yay or nay on the product. And I'm going to put my hot take in here that a cloud architect is simply Kubernetes for cloud ops people. There you go.
There. And actually, this reminds me of what Gina was saying earlier about personas. So Gina, you're the expert on this. Is cloud architect a persona? Or what is the persona that you're hearing from this discussion?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I don't think that organizations have solidified enough to, I would think that so in personas, they're broken down into decision makers, buyers, who's the person that actually signs the check, and then influencers. So I would think that cloud architects are probably the decision makers. They probably don't hold the check. It's probably a C-level that holds the check. And then I would think influencers are the actual implementers that are actually, the influencer probably somebody from the dev side and somebody from the ops side.
Interesting.
And I think it, depending on the type of offer you're putting into the market, you go after different people. But I think from an infrastructure perspective, it's going to be operators. You'll want the operators to try it out and push it up to the architects to say, hey, put our stuff on your menu.
Yeah,
Probably that.
so it works sort of like that.
I think the rules will change though. I think there will be more rules added as people get more and more comfortable about building these types of applications. Because I think another thing is, we heard all about the cloud therapist, right? So I think we have that. We have the FinOps role. That's definitely one. And the whole idea of being able to understand cloud economics, understanding how your product fits into the market in that space and how you can make that world easier. That's going to be a persona, I think. I think there's a lot of stuff that's just up and coming, but cloud architect is one people definitely use now.
This is why I think one of the problems we bump into with vendors in trying to figure out how to map their persona and map their story is because a cloud architect may have some private cloud, may have some storage, they may have some network, they've got a development experience they're managing. And in the end, so if you try and tune a product to sell to a cloud architect, it's really weird because it used to be easier. You're selling to the VMware admin, or the VMware architect. And that was like literally the name was in your resume. Like you wrote VMware all over the place. Now we say cloud architects and you could say 3 clouds, maybe 2 clouds, maybe 1 cloud, maybe private cloud. But
You bring up a good
Maybe
point.
VMware.
right.
You bring up a good point here. Example, I've been trying to hire a GCP cloud architect and many interviews, and we just can't seem to find someone that fits what we want. And now I'm going back and, probably have to rewrite the job description, but each organization has their own definition of what a cloud architect is. And the people I've been interviewing are more, they're architects. They're like, hey, I'm an architect. I'm an architect. But they're they're specialized architects in a specific domain. So, comes back to each organization is going to do something a little bit different. So when you write job descriptions and personas, you've got to be clear on what clear on what that role is and what you want that role to do.
Well, clear on the fact that you may not know. I think, and I
That
want to just
too.
take a little bit of poke fun of you a little bit, Eric. You should not be writing products to a to a persona, right? The product should solve a problem in the marketplace.
Oh, sorry.
The question
messaging,
is-
not the product.
The question is, right? The question is like, who's going to care about this, and who will really understand whose problem is this? And so that goes to like, does a cloud architect really have a problem? Or are they just fixing vSphere stuff still? And that's what makes everything so difficult right now. I think this will all shake out in the next couple of years as everything matures a little bit more there.
And we'll have another title then.
Exactly. Right.
There you go.
The next thing would come and wreck all
What
this
do you want
stuff.
to be? If you're not a cloud architect, what will you want to be called?
Me?
Yeah.
IT storyteller.
IT storytelling.
Okay, that's good. I like it.
Slayer projects.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Chief Dragon Slayer. No, that's
Sounds good.
Well, thank you so much. And I don't know if this has provided clarity on exactly what a cloud architect is, but at least it's provided noise on what a cloud architect, data on what a cloud architect is. And frankly, as I said, most of the folks here are cloud architects.